Hallo, Frau Pucker.
Hallo, guten Morgen.
Hello, morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to start in time, yes?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Guten Morgen.
Morgen and good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. Kurz. So, a warm welcome to everyone here in our WebEx session or in the live stream. Good morning, as we've heard from Mannheim, 8 o'clock we have here, and good afternoon in KL, Malaysia. We have got 3 o'clock here in the afternoon. Hello to everyone else who's watching us in the world. I welcome all of you taking part in this year's first Urban Thinkers Campus on a very interesting topic, the implementation of an urban climate change action plan in Kuala Lumpur. My name is Dr. Simone Burel. I am CEO of LUB, and my company has supported the city of Mannheim with their mission statement, Mannheim 2030. And now we welcome, in particular, all of our virtual guests who are with us in this first inaugural session. I want to say hello to the mayor of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Datuk Mahadi. I want to say hello to Maimunah Sharif, the executive director of UN Habitat. I want to say hello to Dr. Alexander Kleibrink, the senior policy officer from the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ in Germany, and of course from the city of Mannheim, our mayor, Dr. Peter Kurz, and the Deputy Mayor of Mannheim, Professor Dr. Diana Pretzel. Maybe you've seen it on the website. Christine Auclair should be with us today, but unfortunately, she cannot make it, but sending you all the best wishes. As many of you know, we come together quite often for this Urban Thinkers Campus to do a lot of critical thinking, critical exchanging, and this is provided by the UN Habitat. Citizens, key players, organizations, experts, and scientists do and talk and do an open talk to get new information. And the first phase of this Kuala Lumpur UTC, we call it in short, but KL UTC, had a focus on urban climate change issues. And it was held in December 2019 in Kuala Lumpur. It was a wonderful collaboration between different partners, like the Resilient Urban Planning and Development Company in Germany and the Climate Change Institute at the National University of Malaysia, the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, and last but not least, the KL City Hall. It was a wonderful campus with the aim of localizing the SDGs related to urban climate change. And of course, that collaboration went on in the last 3 years of Mannheim in Kuala Lumpur, continuing in different forms of potential partners and constantly a platform to exchange, to learn from each other and to overcome obstacles. And to continue this journey, also in 2022, the second phase of Kuala Lumpur UTC has begun. We're very pleased to host this campus here today in Mannheim, even if it's just only virtually and we can reach out to you. But by organizing this urban campus, Thinkers Campus, we are aiming to start initiative to go on supporting each other to become climate resilient cities. Let us have a brief look at today's program. In about 45 minutes, we start with the first lab, Lab 1, Challenges and Lesson Learned for Managing Urban Heat Stress in Kuala Lumpur and Mannheim. This is a stunning lab because you will get to know that there is a difference in air temperature between the hotter city and the cooler surrounding countryside, reaching up to 10 degrees in large cities such as Kuala Lumpur. Then after one, we have the Lab 2, showcasing the climate impact adaptation in Malaysia and Germany and the local Green Deal of Mannheim. I'm sure there's a lot of talking about the National Garden Show, for example, in Mannheim taking part in 2023. And at last, we have a third lab, Lab 3, starting at 11:45. It is about keeping track of progress to achieve related SDG goals and implement them on the ground. So there is a lot of numbers tracking, KPIs, and climate data analytics. And now we're going to stop this brief introduction because you've heard we're going to start in 45 minutes and I can pass over the word to our mayor, Dr. Peter Kurz. He took part in the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow in November 2021, and he presented the Mannheim Green Deal there. In September 2021, he received the World Mayor International Award 2021. Again, congrats, Dr. Kurz, for your commitment to cooperation between cities worldwide.
Yeah, thank you, Simone Burel, and good morning and good afternoon, of course, everybody, dear colleague Mahadi Ngah, dear Mr. Kleibrink, dear Diana Pretzel, dear attendees. We are very pleased to be able to conduct this virtual UTC together with Kuala Lumpur today. Now, more than ever, it is important to join forces and work together to address global challenges and make an impact. The World Urban Campaign is a network platform that helps to shape a better future, achieve the decisive urban dimension of the Sustainable Development Goals, and implement the new urban agenda. In this way, our exchange should contribute to developing solutions and taking action in cities and communities. UTCs are the perfect instrument to promote policy dialogues on urban issues, identify solutions, and take action. These solutions and actions are documented and lessons learned are shared broadly. In addition, UTCs are a platform for new partnerships in order to implement concrete projects. They are also an important opportunity for networking and exchange. UTCs are firmly anchored in the urban society and strategy of the city of Mannheim. We are looking forward to transferring the enthusiasm and drive we have developed here to Kuala Lumpur. The UTC Kuala Lumpur Climate Action Plan 2050 was developed by the Kuala Lumpur city government together with Malaysian partners RUPD, the city of Mannheim, BMZ and GIZ. It aims to shape a positive and inspiring path towards a tangibly better quality of life in the city. I hope that we can share some of our experiences in Mannheim regarding climate action and learn from Kuala Lumpur's leadership as well. Before we begin the program, I would like to say a few words about the city of Mannheim for our friends in Kuala Lumpur. Mannheim is a city of about 320,000 inhabitants in southwestern Germany. Our roots are industrial. Almost a century and a half ago, Carl Benz built the first car here. Still today, it remains an important city for industrial production and is, until this decade, home to one of the largest coal-fired power plants in Europe. However, Mannheim today is far more than just an industrial hub. The city is transforming into a green and smart city in the 21st century. One of the key forces guiding our transformation is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We decided to localize the SDGs by developing our own mission statement with our residents. In a broad-based participation process, we work together with more than 2,500 Mannheim residents, companies, institutions, associations, and universities to develop the Mannheim 2030 mission statement. As one of the 7 pillars of our mission statement, we set the ambitious strategic goal of being a climate-friendly, climate-resilient, and climate-neutral city. This is no easy feat, given Mannheim's industrial history. However, we recognize that it is imperative that we achieve this goal. Measures in both climate change mitigation and climate impact adaptation need to be implemented at an accelerated pace. We also need the active engagement, participation, and support of our residents and stakeholders across the city in order to be successful. To this end, we are developing a local Green Deal, which localizes the European Green Deal and helps us realize the goal we set for ourselves in our mission statement. Mannheim's local Green Deal is not simply the implementation of European policy. We see our local Green Deal, or LGD, as a framework for concrete municipal and community action. It is also a recovery and resilience strategy to help transform our city and local economy. Furthermore, we see ourselves as a so-called local Green Deal pilot city and hope that we can work with cities across Europe to implement similar efforts and contribute toward reaching the EU's climate goals. As a part of the local Green Deal, the city of Mannheim is launching the Climate Protection Action Plan 2030, one of the most important projects to concretize the strategic goal of climate neutrality. We develop the Climate Protection Action Plan 2030 together with stakeholders from the city administration and the city society. The participation of our residents and our business community here is of critical importance. The city administration cannot implement policy on its own. We need partners in our efforts. This large process was designed with the involvement of various stakeholders. We also established a voluntary citizens' council. With the resolution of the Climate Action Plan 2030 Mannheim, using the integrated approach of the LGD, addressing all sectors. The Municipal Council's decision to develop the Climate Action Plan 2030 with the targeted orientation towards the European mission 100 climate neutral cities sets the goal of climate neutrality by 2030. Climate Protection Action Plan 2030 establishes both how much less CO2 emissions are to be emitted by the year 2030 and which measures are to be implemented in Mannheim to achieve this goal. The goal of a climate-friendly, climate-resilient and climate-neutral city, which is a role model for environmentally conscious action, is now the top political priority. We are developing an approach to local climate policy which we hope other cities can learn from. Not only do we want to share our successes, but we also want to share our lessons learned. Action at the local level is needed to address the pressing threat of climate change, and we will be stronger if we work together to find innovative solutions. And for all our constituencies, it is important to realize that we are not alone in our efforts. This is why I'm so happy to take part in discussions like this one. With respect to the first lab on urban heat, let me take the opportunity to invite you to the German National Garden Show next year, which will host it in Mannheim. It is both a garden and urban development show, and it will reshape the city of Mannheim. We are using the show as an opportunity to take on the problem of urban heat. A so-called fresh air corridor, a green artery from the north of the city to its center, will reduce temperatures in the neighboring city districts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted that we can come together today to discuss this important and shared challenge. Although Mannheim and Kuala Lumpur are almost 10,000 kilometers from one another, we are on the common road toward green transformation. The results of our Urban Thinkers Campus event today will help us grow as a city and get closer to achieving the goals we set ourselves in our mission statement. In May, we will explore SDG 17, partnerships, and 5, gender equality, at our next Urban Thinkers Campus. I'm certain that the conversations that we have today will inform those debates, given how interlinked the SDGs are and how universal the topic of climate change is. I'm looking forward to today's discussion and hearing so many different perspectives from our two cities. The results of this UTC will be used to develop a climate action plan for Kuala Lumpur. I'm sure that today will provide important impulses for further development, both locally in Kuala Lumpur and on a global level. I wish all participants an exciting discussion and look forward to the results.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Kurz, for this welcoming words. And after hearing you now, we have the pleasure to get the greetings from the mayor of Kuala Lumpur, Datuk Mahadi. He is the 13th mayor of Kuala Lumpur of KL, and he was the City Hall's former planning executive director before, so he knows exactly how to manage cities, and he has broad skills in administration of cities and planning policies. The New Straits Times writes about him that he has vast experience and leadership qualities. He drives Kuala Lumpur towards being a caring city, and this is very important. So we have your words.
Thank you, Dr. Simone Burel, for the kind introduction. Lord Mayor Dr. Peter Kurz, Mayor of Mannheim City, Yang Berbahagia Dr. Sri Maimunah Muhammad Sharif, Executive Director of the UN Habitat, Dr. Christine Ockler, Coordinator of the World Urban Campaign, Dr. Alexander Kleibrink, Senior Policy Officer, Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to one and all. Thank you for carving your time out to join the second phase of the Kuala Lumpur Urban Thinkers Campus. Lord Mayor Dr. Peter Kurz, please accept my sincerest gratitude to you and your innovative city of Mannheim for hosting this event, as well as your kind invitation for me to give this special address. We are indeed pleased to be part of the initiative driven by the UN Habitat that not only encourages critical exchange and puts forth the opportunity to explore positive urban transformations, but it also addresses the many urban challenges that we face for the sake of our collective future. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are here to share how Kuala Lumpur is addressing the climate change. It is an undeniable truth that cities are a major source of carbon emissions. Cities produce more than 60% of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. As a matter of consequence, it is also cities that are most heavily affected by the impacts of climate change. Testament to this is the incidences of flash floods, storms, and landslides that have befallen Kuala Lumpur in recent years. As the mayor of capital city of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, it is my duty to create a sustainable, livable, resilient, safe, inclusive, and a happy city for all. To achieve this, it is crucial that we urgently address the present and future consequences of climate change, both for the citizens of Kuala Lumpur and for the sake of our collective future. Bearing this in mind, the environment is one of our key priorities alongside health, cultural heritage, and safety as we nurture a vibrant economy and modern society that respects the planet and its fellow citizens. Additionally, as a signatory to the Paris Agreement, Malaysia's commitment to global climate action been a strong driving factor for both nationwide and city-level efforts to address climate change and reduce carbon emissions. Ladies and gentlemen, Kuala Lumpur first embarked on its journey to combat climate change with community engagements and carbon emission reduction programs during the early 2000s through the adoption of various global action plans. This includes the Local Agenda 21, New Urban Agenda, and the Sustainable Development Goals. Locally, we reinforce these efforts by establishing the Kuala Lumpur City Hall's Carbon Management Plan and the Kuala Lumpur Low Carbon Society Blueprint 2030. Importantly, Kuala Lumpur Low Carbon Society Blueprint 2030 sets goal of 70% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030. The blueprint outlines 245 programs or actions to serve as comprehensive solutions to better climate change, guiding us in adopting a low-carbon approach to city planning and the development of Kuala Lumpur. Ladies and gentlemen, we also developed the draft of Kuala Lumpur Structure Plan 2040, which supports our vision of transforming Kuala Lumpur into a sustainable, resilient, and livable city for all. Through Kuala Lumpur Structure Plan 2040, we hope to embrace an innovative and more inclusive approach to governing the city to complement our neutral carbon commitment. Together, these plans encapsulate the city's key actions relating to climate change. As such, these documents have been heavily referenced in the development of the Kuala Lumpur Climate Action Plan 2050, which is a continuum to the preceding climate action work that Kuala Lumpur City Hall has accomplished over the years. Under Kuala Lumpur Climate Action Plan 2050, Kuala Lumpur City Hall is determined to continue to lead, inspire, and implement ambitious climate action in Kuala Lumpur. Ladies and gentlemen, while we have put forth many climate actions and roadmaps for implementation, this is not enough to ensure successful climate action plan. In order to achieve carbon neutrality and climate resilience in the city, Kuala Lumpur City Hall will need to overcome key barriers, including securing good community buy-in, enhancing the human capital, accelerating the adoption of technology, accessing funding and resources for capital-intensive sustainable infrastructure, among others. We are determined to persevere and make progress in achieving our long-term climate goals and targets. Kuala Lumpur City Hall will pave the way for better integration and rollout of climate action. This includes lobbying for greater parliamentary support for climate action, including possible amendments of local bylaws and enforcement on recycling, as well as collaborating with the private and corporate sectors and the local community, among others. We will also push for increased transparency across our projects, along with a firmer stance on all contractors and stakeholders in the implementation of climate actions. In addition to this, the financial sector has also supported green investing by encouraging environmental, social, and governance reporting from private companies. These initiatives will support Kuala Lumpur City Hall's climate agenda for ensuring that the development across the city supports the agenda to reduce carbon emissions and eventually becoming the carbon neutral city. Beyond these efforts, we are also championing climate action by supporting local and international climate change movements, as well as regional and international networks that promote collaboration and knowledge sharing in tackling climate change. For example, since 2016, Kuala Lumpur has been a member of C40, and we have collaborated with world-leading cities to deliver urgent climate action to ensure a safe and sustainable future for all. In March 2019, we also joined the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, sharing a vision to combat climate change with 11,500 other member cities. Ladies and gentlemen, from our experience, collaboration and opportunities for knowledge sharing and mutual learning have certainly proven fruitful in developing better and more effective solutions to protect our shared environment. As such, I'd like to conclude my speech by inviting our international partners to explore more ways for mutual collaboration. By transferring know-how, learning from our challenges, mistakes, and successes, we will be able to accelerate the implementation of climate action plans and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. I look forward to hearing more from fellow speakers. Once again, thank you, Lord Mayor Dr. Peter Kurz, for the opportunity to share on Kuala Lumpur's climate action journey with all of you today. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, danke, and terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Datuk Ngah, Mayor of Kuala Lumpur, for these impressive pictures from your city. And the next speaker we have for you is Maimunah Mohammed Sharif, and she's the Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlement Program, the UN Habitat. Maimunah Sharif is the first Asian woman to serve as Executive Director of the UN Habitat since she started 2018. And she's known for her people-centered approach to urban planning. She places great importance on inclusive cities and works to promote the positions of marginalized communities and individuals, such as women and youth. And unfortunately, Maimunah Sharif cannot be here in present today, and also not in virtual, but she sent a very nice recorded address for you in advance, which we will now play for you. So, gonna start the movie for you.
Honorable Mayor of Kuala Lumpur, Datuk Sri Mahadi Ngah, Honorable Mayor of Mannheim, Peter Kurz, distinguished guests and delegates, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. It is my pleasure and honor to be here with all of you today to commemorate the inaugural sessions of the Kuala Lumpur Urban Thinkers Campus 2022, exploring how knowledge, innovation, and collaboration can accelerate climate action. We had heard at COP26 how cities were demanding immediate action and not just mid-century targets on emission reductions. Through initiatives such as the Climate Action for Cities campaign and partnership with the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, UN Habitat is encouraging the localization of SDGs, especially on climate-related targets under SDG 13 and through greater multi-level government cooperation. Both city and community leaders must work together in addressing urban heat effects and finding solutions. For this reason, I am equally delighted that Kuala Lumpur is hosting this forum, offering my sincere appreciation to the Mayor of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and the Mayor of Mannheim City, Germany, for working together in promoting sustainability and climate change action. Following the sessions today, Mannheim City has been appointed by the World Urban Campaign and UN Habitat to host the second phase of Kuala Lumpur Urban Thinkers Campus 2022. May I also please extend my thanks to the theme at Urbanist Malaysia as the local partner in Malaysia and for their continuous efforts to advancing the new urban agenda globally. Rapid urban growth is an increasing concern for the future of cities and the health of inhabitants, causing the natural environment to be replaced by built-up areas to accommodate overpopulation, quick construction without considering the local climatic conditions, the expansion of city size, high traffic congestions, and other ailments. We see changes to the urban microclimate and phenomena such as urban heat islands or UHI effects emerging. This creates higher temperature differences within urban and rural areas and leads to several negative impacts on various aspects of life, including increased morbidity and mortality risks, low air quality, and reduction of natural resources. Therefore, we need to take urgent action to tackle urban heat and its impacts, as well as ensuring local climate action plans with concrete and verifiable targets that help move us from small-scale interventions to citywide action. Without questions, climate action and sustainable development are inseparable. In the latest IPCC report, climate change was described as a code red for humanity by the Secretary General Antonio Guterres and a threat multiplier, amplifying existing threats and exacerbating underlying issues. Thus, ambitious integrated planning with climate actions are one of the requisites for prosperous development and creations of new opportunities for the economy, environment, and society. All countries have agreed to work to limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees, and given the grave risk, to strive for 1.5 degrees. Implementation of the new urban agenda and Paris Agreement are essential for the achievement of the SDGs and in providing a roadmap for climate actions that will reduce emissions and build climate resilience by 2030. We need to optimize the existing infrastructure that can withstand the impact of the extreme weather, accelerate the supply of climate finance, and ensure access to green and resilient infrastructure. Urgent investments supported by evidence-based science and anchored in ambitious nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, will be essential for us to ensure a zero-carbon future. I look forward to hearing the outcomes from today, carried forth to WOOF 11 this year in Poland, where climate change adaptation will be a priority agenda. Lastly, I would like to encourage national governments to make sure that they prioritize cities and human settlements in their strategies and commitments to both the new urban agenda and Paris Agreement. Let me urge local leaders to be bold for their cities and calling professionals to help plan, build, and manage cities better, I'm also inviting the civil society to engage citizens in climate action and resilient building. The future of the planet and ability to help curb the climate crisis will depend on the collective actions of everyone. With these remarks, please allow me to wish you a very successful meeting and fruitful deliberation at this invigorating UTC. Thank you.
Maimunah, Sharif reminding us to keep an eye on the microclimate of all cities. Thank you so much. We have one last keynote for you before we start in the labs, and I may introduce our speaker, Dr. Alexander Kleibrink. He's the Senior Policy Officer of the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, where he co-leads the Global Program for Sustainable Urban Development. Previous to this, Alexander Kleibrink was working for the European Commission on regional development, innovation processes, and open governance. Kleibrink values research and innovation, and he's specialized in local governance and energy efficiency. Looking forward to your talk.
Thank you so much, dear Ms. Burel, Mayor Kurz, Mayor Mahadi, Executive Director Sharif, dear participants. I'm very happy to be here speaking to you this morning from Bonn. So good morning also from Bonn. And I think so much has been said, so I don't have to add much more, which makes it easier. You can start with the labs, which I think is the most important part of the work today. I will just tell you very briefly about the context, our work, and where we think we need much more, and also focusing a little bit on the issue of heat stress. So, I mean, about climate change and the urgency to act, I don't have to convince to preach to the converted. So we all know the facts. We all know that we have to act quickly. And I think heat stress is an interesting example because it just shows you the interdependentness of everything and how much integrated approaches and inclusive planning is important and how much it matters. So we know that we have rapid and unplanned urbanization in large parts of the world. And I think the key problem that we have is not only that the cities are becoming bigger and we have more people living in cities. I think the main problem we have in the end is that we build cities still the same way we built them last century. And this obviously is not sustainable. And this also is obviously related to the issue of heat stress. So we need new ways of planning. We need new ways of building infrastructure in buildings. And we have to do this quite quickly. I think we all are aware of the urgency. So I think also one key aspect of concerning the context is even if we are very optimistic and we can reach the climate goals of Paris, even then we have to adapt. And large parts of the world have to adapt. And we know that especially heat stress will be most likely in Southeast Asia and Western Africa, very strong, increasing until 2050. And obviously this is particularly important for the urban poor. We're talking about informal settlements. So it's going to strike those most vulnerable most hard. So I think these are the facts that we know, and it doesn't look too good. And I think also the other actually we shouldn't forget about when we talk about heat stress, how we deal with heat is obviously through cooling. Cooling needs and consumes a lot of energy. And this electricity usually in many parts of the world is still produced by fossil fuels. So I think we have this kind of vicious circle that through heat and heat stress, we need more energy, which is often not produced in sustainable ways. So we are at this phase where we do have different feedback loops which strengthen each other and obviously have a negative effect on overall climate. And I think just from our ministry's perspective, I'm speaking on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. We are the biggest, inside Germany, the biggest international financier for climate action globally. And last summer, we published our new climate and energy strategy, where urban development is one of 3 key areas for action. So just also to show you that within German development cooperation, urban development is a key pillar because it is locally where we have to take action and we have to implement the needed measures. I will just give you 2 examples of our work. Since we are also talking about a lab today, a lab where new things are tested, a lab where you bring different people together, different disciplines. We have had a city lab in Amman, Jordan, which has developed what we call then urban micro lungs. So mini forests, mini spaces within cities, especially in disadvantaged areas, to deal with this issue of heat stress. But also at the same time, obviously, we should never forget also the aspect of livable cities. We need green spaces not only to deal with heat and other issues. We also need them as a public space where people and citizens can meet. So this has been a very successful city lab in Amman, Jordan. And also, since we are talking now about Kuala Lumpur and the partnership with Mannheim, obviously we also support these kind of partnerships. I think they're very important for knowledge exchange, just talking to people who are working on the same challenges. We have, for example, also the municipal climate partnership between Herdecke in North Rhine-Westphalia here in Germany and Dumangas in the Philippines, where they are doing something very similar what we are discussing today. They are discussing their climate partnerships, their municipal partner climate chips, and they are also looking at heat and urban heat as one of the key issues. So I would also, well, I would now directly go to the conclusion because I think so much has been said. What we need more, and I think here much more could be said. Obviously, nature-based solutions have to become an integral part of planning. So this, I think we are still not there yet in most places, in most cities of the world. And there are different initiatives which are interesting. Some of you may have heard of Bauhaus der Erde, which is a project by Professor Schellenhuber in Potsdam and others, who just think about the aspect that I mentioned before. What kind of building or built environment do we need in the next century? What kind of materials do we want to use, and in what kind of buildings do we want to live, and what kind of cities do we want to live? I think this is a key issue, how we want to think about, you know, the construction sector of the future. And this could be called in German Bauwende, so a transformation of the built environment, which is urgently needed, because otherwise I think we cannot deal with the rapid urbanization that we are facing. And just to close with one aspect which is now very much relevant for the German government, it's the G7 presidency. Germany has the G7 presidency currently. Infrastructure is one of the key pillars where actually also my ministry is coordinating the German efforts. So how we build infrastructure, getting away from gray infrastructure to green and blue infrastructure is a key issue. And there, as we have heard many times today, it's not only about planning, which is already difficult enough, it's also about financing. We support, as the German government, different project preparation facilities where we want to help cities prepare good projects, good project proposals, but it shouldn't be standalone projects. They all are interrelated. So we need transformative portfolios of large projects for infrastructure that must streamline nature-based solutions and be tailor-made to the needs of the cities. And for this, obviously, we need much more advocacy, like the event today. You're not only thinking today, you're also doing afterwards much more and implementing the ideas that you're developing. So this kind of advocacy is very much needed if we want really to move to a new idea of the built environment in cities and how to deal with heat stress. I thank you very much, and I wish you fruitful discussions today and beyond today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this insightful speech, Dr. Kleibrink. I take with me, we need nature-based solutions and not just thinking and also acting. We have almost finished this inaugural session, and before letting you go to the labs, I would like to address some final technical aspects. As you see, today's UTC takes place on WebEx, and the colleagues just posted the links for you in the chat because we have a different WebEx lab for each lab. This means you cannot stay within this link. You need a new link for the lab 1. There's another one for lab 2, lab 3, and so on. And so make sure you don't get lost in WebEx, or alternatively, you watch the live stream, which is of course open as usual for the general public on the YouTube channel of the city of Mannheim. We have a professional moderating and also documenting team in each lab, 1, 2, 3. There is also a written documentation of the most important points and contents. And there are 3 important persons which you still have to keep in your mind now, because they will be the moderating persons in your labs. For lab 1, it is Mustafa Kamal Tolnakain. For lab 2, it is Dr. Parisa Kloss, and for Lab 3, that's my colleague Noah Fleischer. And we wish you a great journey through the labs, and make sure, because this is something that is new this time, we don't have a closing session. This means Lab 3 ends at 1:30, and we will not have a wrap up in this round. But of course, all the results will be collected and written down for you as usually, and of course provided. So let me say one last final sentence, a quote which I found from Donella Meadows, a pioneering environmental scientist, teacher, and writer. She once said, "The scarcest resource is not oil, is not metal, is not clean air, capital, labor, or technology. It's our willingness to listen to each other and to learn from each other." And I think this is something that absolutely makes it clear that it needs partnerships between humans, that it needs partnerships between the government, and of course between cities. And this is wonderful to have that Urban Thinkers Campus today focusing on Kuala Lumpur and the Climate Action Plan in Malaysia. We are very pleased now to leave you in time. This is always the most important for a good decision, also keeping an eye on time. And I wish you exciting discussion in your lab, a good journey, meeting inspiring people, and have a good day at the KL UTC 2022.